This is Unit 2, Week 2, Article 3, the judicial branch. It's really short, even shorter section of the Constitution. The government document that governs our entire nation is pretty short. What are the requirements to be a justice? There are none. It has no age, no citizenship requirements. How do you become a federal judge? That's really the only requirement. You have to be nominated by the President and then approved and confirmed by the Senate. The Senate Judicial Committee will meet and vote whether they to report favorably, should they support you or not. But ultimately, the whole Senate votes yay or nay. 3, what's the term of office? You serve for life. It's supposed to prevent judges from being biased from a particular person or individual. But you serve for life upon good behavior. A few judges have been impeached and removed. Very, very rare moments in U.S. history. Essentially, you get a federal judgeship, you serve as long as you want. When do the Supreme Court justices tend to step down? Typically, if they can, when there's a president of their political persuasion in office, so that their replacement hopefully will be similar to their own viewpoints. And what does the court have? It's the weirdest court out there. It's got 2 types of jurisdiction, 2 types of thing it oversees. Original jurisdiction, which means where you have the original trial with the original evidence, and the Supreme Court also has appellate jurisdiction. It hears appeals, cases brought from lower district courts or from the state courts, because ultimately the U.S. Supreme Court is the overarching court above all courts in the U.S. Original jurisdiction only exists in a couple weird cases in the Supreme Court. If it involves ambassadors overseas, or if it's a case of one state versus another state. Usually that's over water rights, like there's water on a river and which state can use which, or which state controls. New Hampshire and Maine have sued each other several times over who owns the little tiny island in the river in between the 2 of them. But for the most part, the Supreme Court doesn't use original jurisdiction, but technically it has it if it's an ambassador or a state against a state. Appellate jurisdiction. That's what the court really has. That's what it uses day to day. That means it hears appeals. If 4 judges, it's called the rule of 4, if 4 of the 9 judges agree to hear a case, then they'll take it on. Usually about 100 to 200 cases a year out of the thousands and thousands that are appealed to them. By the way, if they agree not to hear it, they did make a decision. They essentially decided that the lower court's decision is final. If the Supreme Court hears a case, though, on appeal, it can be appealed from a state Supreme Court or from a federal court of appeal to the Supreme Court, and then they will hear the merits and make the decision. Their appellate jurisdiction usually comes down to either they're deciding things according to or within the law because it's unclear, or the constitutionality of it. They're deciding, does the law or does the way this was followed violate the supreme law, the United States Constitution? And what types of cases are tried in federal court? Well, that's obvious. It's a federal crime. Any one that comes under the Constitution. Hence, counterfeiting, because the Constitution, Article 1, says Congress can coin money. If I counterfeit, it's a federal crime because it's a violation of a specific power in Congress. However, murder, for the most part, is not a federal crime. All states have their own criminal codes. And so if you're accused of murder or you're accused of burglary, something like that, you would be tried in state court. You might make its way to the state court of appeal, all the way to the state Supreme Court, and then maybe over to the U.S. federal Supreme Court. But the federal court cases involve areas that come under federal law, things under the powers of the Constitution. And finally, what is treason? Treason is the only crime defined in the U.S. Constitution. It's pretty straightforward and specific. It's legally, no person shall consist in levying war against the United States, adhering to their enemies, giving them aid or comfort. And you have to have 2 witnesses to come out against you to convict you. Essentially, it's the only criminal crime defined in the United States Constitution. All other crimes come under laws that come under powers of the Constitution. And that's it from the Happy House of History.